Hey everybody, Roxabox90 here, continuing our complete limited set review of Khans of Tarkir, and we're going to continue with all the green cards to give you guys a little bit of background for the upcoming pre-release in terms of the cards I think are really good, the cards I think are bad, and the cards I think are pretty average. So let's start with the green. Alpine Grizzly is pretty mediocre. 4-2, not very good. Archer's Power Pet is not as good, not nearly as good as the white version of it, but it's an okay defender if you really need to run a one or two defenders because you're running a slower build. That's fine, but it's not a particularly powerful card. Awaken the Bear is interesting. It's an instant combat trick that seems overpriced for what it is. I mean, we usually expect Giant Growth and Titanic Growth, those kind of things, to be 1 or 2 mana. This at 3 mana, it's a little bit expensive for these kind of combat tricks, even with the trample. Become Immense seems pretty good. You can probably do 3 for 6+6, which is quite a powerful blowout. I'm sure some limited games will swing because of this card. Dragonscale Boon is not very good. I like the fact that you can untap it, so that's it acts almost like a combat trick. You pump your dude, untap it to block, and boom. So that I like about it. I think it's a solid limited card, and will probably, again, be a pretty interesting combat trick. Feed the Clan. Life gain is usually not particularly good, and this is not much better just because it has a ferocious mechanic on it. Hardened Scales is interesting. If you're running Outlast, this card could potentially be insane because it's so cheap with such a powerful effect, but I don't quite know. I'd say it's an average limited card. Heir of the Wild is insane, insanely good in limited. It's a bear with immense upside that just becomes even crazier. I think it's a very strong, limited, aggressive creature. Highland Game is kind of boring. It's not particularly good, and Hooded Hydra is insane in limited. Amazing card. It scales throughout the game, has huge effects. The morph alone is fantastic. I think it's wow. If you got this card, you try to run it. It's pretty good. Hooting Mandrills, I think, is underestimated, even though it seems pretty vanilla. It's a 4/4 trample for 6, but the fact that you can delve it out, 4 for a 4/4 trample would not be unheard of, seems pretty strong. A lot of delve seems very strong for limited. Incremental Growth it's a fine card. We've seen its like before, and with the Outlast and different 1+1 counters going on, I think if you have enough of that with enough 1+1 counter effects in your deck, it's actually a pretty decent card. Kin Tree Warden, it's not very good. Even with the fact that it survives most removal and can be the most annoying blocker to deal with, maybe that's a reason to consider if you want to slow down your attacking game, but it's not particularly great. Longshot Squad is okay. I like that it gives all your dudes reach. That seems pretty decent, and 4/4/3/3 is not bad, so I would say it's at least average, if not above average. Nice way to fill out your curve if you're running some kind of 1+1 counter Outlast. Meandering Tower Shell is pretty good. I mean, in limited, it's just a huge thing. Nothing can get by, and if you really need to attack, well, then it has Island Walk, which is relevant in a 3-color format, so I think it's pretty solid for limited. Naturalize is always solid for limited, more as a splashable card. I don't think you'd run more than one of in the deck, unless you knew your opponent had some good stuff, but there isn't so many amazing artifacts or enchantments in the set. I mean, enchantments, yes. Artifacts, no. So I would say maybe 1 in your deck, and then sideboard if you need to. Pine Walker is, I mean, it's okay. It's 5 for a 5/5. That's not a bad thing, but it's not a particularly good thing either. It's average card. Radical Mystic, it will be a fantastic fixer in limited and a huge explosive card. Of course, it's fantastic if you can run it in limited. Roar of the Challenge is okay. It's alright. I mean, it's a lure effect that gives Indestructible for the turn, which can be interesting, but at sorcery speed, I don't love it. Sabu Archer is, I mean, it's nice with the 5 body, 5 toughness. That's pretty big, and with the reach, but it's 5 mana. I really wish the morph cost had made it cheaper rather than be the same cost, because that I think makes it not particularly great. Savage Punch is insane in limited. Amazing combat trick, great card. Run it if you can. Scout the Borders is okay. I mean, it basically helps filter the deck a little bit. If you're running a lot of creatures, then I think it's a decent card. Average, maybe a little below average. See the Unwritten, I think, is ridiculously powerful, especially if you are running the normal 16 or so creatures, 15, 16, 17 creatures in limited, then this card is going to be pretty amazing. And I'm sure we'll see some very interesting blowouts. Worst comes to worst, you filter through stuff that you don't need and activate Delve. Great card. Seek the Horizon is okay. It's not particularly great. Even filtering, for 4 mana, filtering this kind of lands, I don't love that kind of cost. And that goes in your hand, meh, not so great. Smoke Teller is also kind of meh. It's not really an upside, and it's just a boring bear. Sultai Flayer is okay, I guess. I mean, it's potentially very powerful life gain, but yeah, it's not super awesome. Timor Charger is, I mean, the entire cycle is okay for limited. This one is also okay, but I don't love it. Trail of Mystery could potentially be very strong if you have a bunch of morphs going on. That could be really strong, but other than that, unless you have a morph theme deck, not particularly great. Tusked Colossus is the boring 6 for a 6/5. It's a fine card to fill out a top range if you need to, but not particularly amazing. It's, you know, it's an okay card. Solid limited card. Tusk Guard Captain gives trample to all your dudes. 3 for 2/3 is reasonable and has a very cheap outlast cost. I like it. Windstorm, X damage each creature with flying. There's not so many flying in this format that makes it amazing, but it is instant speed and probably more of a sideboard card. If you see your opponents running tons of flyers, then go for it. And last up, Woolly Loxodon is expensive, but it's also really big and blocks just about everything. So again, it's a fine fill out the curve kind of creature. So those are all the green cards from Khans of Tarkir, speaking about them from the limited format. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, tap the like button and put your comments down below. If you're new to the channel, check in and subscribe. I'll be having the multicolor artifacts and lands coming to you really soon. As always, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.